Today, we're going to talk about a story that's become a global legend. The story of an animal whose love and loyalty were so powerful, they're still talked about all over the world. We're talking, of course, about Hachiko, the dog who waited for his best friend until his very last breath. I want you to just picture this for a second. A busy train station, people rushing everywhere. But in the middle of all that chaos, there's one figure who's always there. A single dog, just sitting and waiting. The vibrant leaves of fall give way to the biting cold of winter, and then the warmth of spring, and he doesn't move. Every single day, he'd watch the crowds, scanning every single face, his eyes just filled with this incredible, unshakable hope. He was waiting for that one person who meant everything to him, totally convinced that any minute now he would show up and they'd finally go home together. Now this wait, it would last for nearly a decade. So you have to ask, why? I mean, what could possibly inspire that kind of devotion? To really understand it, we've got to go back, all the way back to the very beginning. So our story kicks off on November 10th, 1923 in Akita, Japan. An Akita puppy is born, and just a couple of months later, he's adopted by a man named Hedesaburo Ueno, a professor at the Imperial University. He named the puppy Hachiko and brought him home. And let me tell you, the connection, it was immediate. It was profound. It was like Hachiko had always been a part of the family. He and the professor became absolutely inseparable, and their bond was just pure joy. People said that when they played together, the professor seemed like a kid again, totally brought to life by this amazing dog. And soon, their days fell into this beautiful, comforting rhythm. Every morning, without fail, Hachiko would walk with the professor to Shibuya Station. He'd watch him get on the train, then head home. And then, every single evening, like clockwork, he'd be right back at that station, waiting to greet the professor's train. This went on for years, and Hachiko became this beloved, familiar face to everyone around there. But then came one morning when the routine was broken. Something just felt off. As the professor was getting ready for work, he noticed Hachiko was acting really strange, in a way he never had before. Hachiko wouldn't even leave his room, and when the professor went to him, he started barking urgently, almost frantically. It was like he was trying to stop him, trying to warn him, "Don't go today." But, the professor was running late. He gave Hachiko a final pat and headed out. And Hachiko, even with all his anxiety, followed him to the station one last time. So the professor boarded his train, and Hachiko went home to wait, just like always. But that day, while he was in the middle of a lecture, Professor Uno just collapsed. He'd had a massive heart attack, and he died right there in the classroom. He was never coming home again. And so that evening, with absolutely no idea of the tragedy that had unfolded, Hachiko made his way back to Shibuya Station. He took his usual spot, his eyes fixed on the entrance, ready and waiting to greet his master. The train pulled in, passengers started pouring out, a whole river of familiar faces. Hachiko watched every single one of them. The crowd got smaller and smaller, and then disappeared. But the one face he was looking for, the only person he was there to see, was nowhere in sight. Another train came, and then another. But still, no professor. And this is where the story becomes so incredibly heartbreaking. You see, in Hachiko's mind, his master was just delayed. He had to be on the next train, or maybe the one after that. The reality, of course, was that the person he was waiting for was gone forever. And that was a truth this incredibly loyal dog just couldn't or wouldn't accept. Now, in the days that followed, the professor's family ended up moving to another city, and they took Hachiko with them. But his heart was still at Shibuya Station. So one day, he saw his chance, and he escaped. He knew the train tracks would lead him back, so he just started to run. He followed them for days, tirelessly, until he finally made it back to his old home and his old waiting spot. And there he stayed. Not for a day or a week or even a month. No. He stayed for 9 years. Through scorching summers and bitter, freezing winters, Hachiko waited for Professor Ueno to come back. His lonely wait didn't go unnoticed forever. It all began in 1925. By 1932, his story got published in a major newspaper, and overnight he became a national symbol of loyalty. The whole country was so moved that in 1934, they actually built a bronze statue of him at the station in his honor, and Hachiko himself was there to see it. His long watch finally ended in 1935, but by then, his story belonged to the world. But as Hachiko grew older, all those years of waiting, of being exposed to the elements, it all started to take its toll. His story was nearing its final and most poignant chapter. One day, 9 years after the professor had passed away, his wife came back to the city to visit his grave. And when she arrived at Shibuya Station, she saw a familiar sight. It was Hachiko. He was visibly old now and weak, but he was still there, sitting in the exact same spot, still waiting. Can you even imagine how overwhelming it must have been to see him, still so devoted after all that time? A short time after that, on March 8, 1935, Hachiko's long wait finally came to an end. He was found to have passed away peacefully, right there at the station, the very last place he had seen his best friend. You know, you can't help but hope that in his final moments, he dreamed that his master had finally come back for him. They laid his body to rest right next to the professor's grave, reuniting them at last. But see, his story didn't end there, not really. In death, Hachiko became immortal. His statue at Shibuya Station is one of Tokyo's most famous landmarks. It's a meeting place and a constant reminder of his story. He's a national symbol of loyalty in Japan, and his tale is taught to children as the ultimate example of a faithful, unbreakable bond. Hachiko's 9-year vigil is so much more than just a sad story. It's really this profound testament to the power of love and devotion. It makes you stop and think, and it leaves us with this one last question. Can a bond between a human and an animal truly be so strong that it transcends life itself?